So hello and welcome. My name is Shannon. My pronouns are they, them. Today we have flow and restore. So with our flow and restore, we're going to start with a little bit more active practice and then move down into prop supported asana. So our props for today are mostly to support our prop supported asana, but I use blocks throughout my entire practice. If you want, you can also use a chair in place of blocks, or if you want to practice mostly seated, you can do that as well. For props, I have 2 blankets, a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you can also use 2 bed pillows and 2 blocks. If you don't have blocks, you can use throw pillows for our supported asana portion, or you can use books, a step stool, a chair for a more active portion today. So we're going to start today with a standing grounding if that feels comfortable. If you're more comfortable seated, please feel free. So for my standard grounding, I'm going to find a nice comfortable position. I like my feet a little bit wider than for my mountain pose or my Tadasana pose. So maybe a little bit further apart than hips width apart. It helps me stay balanced because I fall over easily. If you like, you can also have your back against a chair or you can hold on to something as well. So maybe taking a few moments to kind of rock the feet back and forth, shift the weight from side to side till we find our center. I tend to hunch my shoulders forward, so I'm going to roll my shoulders up and back so I have that nice free movement for my breath. And maybe lift the crown if that feels comfortable. We can have our hands out to our sides, palms facing forward or against the body, whatever feels good. And we'll take a few deep breaths. I like to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. I find it calming, but if there's another breath that works best for you, please take that. Maybe on our exhale, we can release with a sigh or vocalization, just kind of letting go of the day, the week, the month so far. And whenever we're ready, we can find our natural breath. If we like, we can have our eyes closed or soft gaze. And don't feel like you have to stand perfectly still. If your body feels like it wants to move a bit, feel free to really work with your body. We'll begin to notice the sensation through the soles of the feet. If we're seated, we'll feel it anywhere that we're making connection with the ground or chair. And just noticing the sensation in this area. Maybe we feel a difference in temperature, a difference in pressure. We might not really feel much at all, and that's okay too. We're just going to witness what's happening in our bodies in this moment. We'll begin to notice how maybe we can ground down through the mat, through the floor, all the way down into the earth beneath us. Noticing the unconditional support that the earth beneath us provides. We don't have to impress it. We don't have to ask permission. It's simply there for us, and we can draw on that support anytime that we need. We might begin to notice how that firm foundation allows us to rest downward and build from the foundation. So maybe noticing the sensation through the feet, through the legs, through the hips. Noticing what we feel here. Maybe we feel a bit of tension, a bit of tightness. We'll make note of those areas. Maybe feel like we want to move or stretch, and we'll make note of that too. Because we want to be as kind to our bodies as possible today. So as we expand our awareness further out, maybe noticing the hips, the midsection, the arms, the hands, shoulders, neck, head. We can eventually expand the awareness into the breath. Just noticing the breath. Maybe noticing how it affects sensation through the body. Do we feel it through the shoulders first, through the heart space, through the ribs, through the belly? There's no right or wrong answer. We're just noticing what we feel in this moment. When we're ready, maybe taking a nice deep inhale, filling the body with air. And on the exhale, letting go. Letting go of anything we don't need in this moment. We've taken a moment to ground ourselves in our space, in our body, in our breath. And we can also ground ourselves in time. Maybe taking a moment to recognize all of those people that have helped us come to the place where we are now. Whether they're teachers, guides, ancestors, friends, family, chosen family. Maybe just taking a moment to hold those folks in recognition. Maybe extending a bit of gratitude. And taking a moment to notice where we are in this moment, mentally, physically, emotionally. And when we're ready, we'll start to introduce a little bit of movement into the body. So maybe taking a little side to side or front and back motions, anything that feels good here. If we like, we can very slowly begin to blink the eyes open if they've been closed. Maybe continuing our rocking movements, anything that feels good. If we noticed anywhere that we felt like we really wanted to stretch during our kind of grounding, maybe taking that opportunity now. Beautiful. And when we're ready, maybe finding our feet in Tadasana. If we're comfortable where they are, we can stay there, maybe bringing them a little bit closer together. Maybe finding length through the spine, rolling the shoulders out if they've become hunched again. When we're ready, we're going to start opening up the arms, coming through a little bit of arm movement. So on the inhale, reaching the arms up, exhaling down if that feels good. I offer breath cues, but if they don't feel good for you, please feel free to ignore them. If they're helpful for some people, annoying for others. So never feel like you have to do exactly what's being cued. If we like, we can continue with this movement. Or if we are comfortable with it, on our exhale, maybe coming through a bit of a fold, reaching down to the ground, hinging at the hips. Inhale, coming back up. I find it's helpful to bring a soft bend into the knees. I tend to hyperextend. And we'll go for 2 more of these if that's comfortable for us. Beautiful. And the next time we bring the arms down, we'll hold them out around T shape. Taking a nice deep inhale, maybe opening the arms out behind us. Just noticing the sensation through the heart space, through the shoulders, anywhere we feel it. And on our exhale, maybe bringing the right hand across the body. We can hold with the left or support, whatever feels more comfortable. Just taking a moment, noticing where we feel that sensation. And then when we're ready, opening back up. Crossing the opposite arm over. Beautiful. Opening back up, releasing the arms down. We'll come through a few calf raises. So we can do these both together or one at a time. So lifting the heels, releasing the heels, or we can do one and then the other. Whatever feels most comfortable. Of course, we can hold onto a chair, the wall. I'm gonna do about 6 more of these. Again, maybe if we're comfortable with it, being mindful of sensation through the legs, through the body. Beautiful. Last one for me. I'm going to come down and we're going to plant the feet down and lift the toes. So just raising the toes away from the floor and bringing those back down. We're going to do 5 of these. Just trying to wake up all those little parts of the foot, the front of the leg. And this will be my last one. Beautiful, coming down. If we like, we can bring the arms out in front of us, straight ahead, pointing the fingers up. And then we'll release the fingers down. I'm gonna do 3 more of these. Just warming up those wrists. Beautiful. Maybe turning palms up, bringing the pinkies and fingers towards each other, and then pulling them away. When I go outward, it feels a little awkward. I'm not used to that movement. So there's no wrong way to do it. Beautiful. And then we can shake out and release the arms down. From here, we're gonna come through a few half sun salutations. So if we like, we can come to the top of the mat. If we use blocks for our practice, we can have them in front of us. We can also have a chair. If you'd like to practice this seated, you could have a seat in the chair and then follow the movements for the upper body. So we're finding our Tadasana again to start. The first time we're gonna go through a little bit slower so we can find all the postures in our body, and then we'll speed it up for the next 3. So once we've found our Tadasana, we'll start by taking just a couple breaths here. Beautiful. And if we like, on our inhale, we can raise the arms up for upward salute. We can reach up through the fingertips. If the shoulders are hunched near the ears, maybe letting them fall away from the ears. Beautiful. On our exhale, if we like, we can bring the hands together through heart center, hinging at the hips, coming through forward fold. So if we deal with any sort of spinal issues, we might want to keep a neutral spine and not bring the top of the head down to the ground. But if you would like to bring that curve into the spine, go ahead and bring the head in the direction of the ground if we like. Remember, we can keep a deep bend in the knees if that's comfortable for us. On our inhale, we'll come through half fold, so finding length through the spine, maybe bringing our hands to our knees. Beautiful. On our next exhale, if we like, we can come down, back through forward fold. We can bring a deep bend into the knees, sweep the arms forward and up, back through our upward salute. And when we're ready, bring the hands out through heart center and out to the sides. Beautiful. So if we like, we can stay at this pace or we can go a little bit faster. I'm gonna go a little bit faster. Again, starting with 2 breaths. We're gonna take 2 breaths in between each salutation. When we're ready, reaching the arms up for upward salute. Exhale, hands through heart center, hinging at the hips, forward fold. Half forward fold. And forward fold. Bringing a bend into the knees, sweeping the arms up. Hands through heart center and to the sides. Beautiful. 2 breaths here. When we're ready, reaching the arms up. Forward fold. Half fold. And fold. Bend in the knees, sweeping forward into upward salute. Hands through heart center and down to the sides. Beautiful. Last one. When we're ready, reaching up. Hands through heart center, hinging at the hips. Half fold and fold. Bending the knees, upward salute. Hands through heart center and to the sides. Beautiful. We can take a moment, shake out, grab a drink if we like. And from here, we're going to move into the width of the mat. So if we like, we can bring our blocks with us. We're going to come through a posture to start called Dancer's Tadasana. So for that, we're going to start in Tadasana. We'll begin to shift our weight over the right leg to start. We'll reach the arms up, Step the left leg back at about a 45-degree angle. We can keep a bend in the front knee if that's comfortable. We can shine the heart forward and gaze towards the ceiling if that feels good on the back, or we can keep a neutral spine. If this is intense on the arms, we can also bring our arms into cactus. So whatever feels good here. Beautiful. When we're ready, we can bring both feet together, bring the arms down. Take a moment, shake the shoulders out. And then we'll come through on the opposite side. So again, finding our Tadasana. Shifting the weight this time over the left leg. Inhaling the arms up. Stepping the right leg back. Gazing upward if that feels good. Maybe noticing where we feel what sensation, if it's different than it was on the opposite side. One more breath here. When we're ready, we can step the feet together, release the arms down, take any movement we like. It never feels like it should be that intense in the shoulders for me, but it always is. So we're gonna come out to a wide-legged forward fold, or prep for a wide-legged forward fold. We're gonna bring our feet anywhere from 2 to 4 feet apart. I'm gonna pull my pants up so I have condition with the ground. If we like, we can have our toes forward. If this doesn't feel comfortable, we can turn our toes outward a little bit. Go with what feels good in your body. We're basically in Tadasana here. So we're noticing if we have a neutral pelvis, I tend to stick with my bum out. So I'm gonna maybe bring it in just a little bit so that I have a nice neutral spine. Our hands can come out to the sides. We'll take a couple breaths here, just noticing the sensation through the body. Beautiful. On our exhale, we're going to hinge at the hips, bringing our hands down towards the blocks or the floor in front of us. Again, we can keep a neutral spine if that's more comfortable, or we can intend the head towards the ground. Our fingers can be in line with our toes, but sometimes that can make us feel a little off balance, so feel free to bring the hands forward if you like. Remember, we can also keep a bend in the knees here. Beautiful. One more breath. When we're ready, we can come through a half fold. So we're going to find a nice straight spine. And we're going to move through a modified Skandasana here. So I'm going to bring my blocks towards my right foot as I begin to bend the right knee, coming into a bit of a side lunge. Taking a few moments here, noticing the sensation. And then when we're ready, we're gonna walk the blocks towards the left leg, straightening the right leg and bending the left knee. Beautiful. We'll come back through center. So we can continue staying up high if we like, or this time when we come towards the right, we can maybe come into a bit of a deeper squat. Maybe lifting the hands from the blocks or the floor if that feels comfortable. We can bring them towards heart center. Do whatever feels good in your body. Then when we're ready, we can bring the hands back down to the blocks, walk them towards the left leg, bending the left knee. Again, option to come into a deeper squat if we like. Beautiful. When we're ready, coming back through center, we'll take one more forward fold here. And then when we're ready, bringing a deep bend into the knees, placing our hands on our thighs, pressing through the soles of the feet. Coming up slowly, stepping those feet back together. Beautiful. Grab a drink if you like. And we're gonna come through a high lunge next. So I'm gonna come back towards the top of the mat. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna wipe off first because it's a little warm in here. Always helpful to keep a towel near the mat. At least it is for me. So I'm gonna find myself in my Tadasana. So rooting down through the soles of the feet, finding length through the legs, looking for my neutral pelvis, engaging my core muscles. So that might feel a little bit like right before we cough, that kind of tightening sensation. Again, rolling the shoulders up and back, arms out to the sides, if we like. 2 breaths to start. Beautiful. I'm gonna bring my right leg back anywhere from 2 to 4 feet. But then I'm gonna kind of balance on the toes, the pads of the foot and the toes. If this doesn't feel comfortable, you can also drop the back foot all the way down. We have a bend in the front knee. Our shoulders, hips, and knees are facing forward. And on our inhale, we can reach the arms up for a high lunge. If we'd like, we can also have our hands on our hips. Our arms might be getting tired by now. Whatever works. We're just gonna notice the sensation here. Beautiful. From here, we're gonna hinge at the hips, bringing our hands down to frame our foot. So we can grab our blocks if we like. And I'm gonna bring my both blocks to the inside of my left foot. We might stay here. This might feel really good, and I invite you to stay here if it does. But if we like, we might want to move that left foot out a little bit to kind of feel that widening through the hips. We also have the option to roll onto the side of the foot. Now, if you have any ankle issues, stay on the flat of your foot, but if that's not a problem for you, we can roll onto the side of the foot, coming into lizard. We'll take a couple more breaths here. If you want to exit, feel free to place the foot flat on the ground. If you like, you can deepen by coming down to forearms. You can even lower down onto your back knee if that's more comfortable. Beautiful. So if we've come down to forearms, we'll come back up to our hands. We'll gently roll the flat of the foot back against the mat. We're gonna ground down through the front foot as we maybe frame our front foot again. And then when we're ready, we can sweep the arms forward and up, back into our high lunge. We'll step the back leg in, either in small steps or one big step. We can bring the hands down through heart center and to the sides. So I'm gonna come to the other side of the mat so I can still keep an eye on you. But you can stay where you are if you like. And this time, I'm gonna demo using a chair instead of blocks. For folks who may not feel comfortable bending down to the ground. So whenever we're ready, we'll find ourselves in our Tadasana again. I have my chair on my mat, so it doesn't slide if we're using a chair. So taking a moment to come into our Tadasana, taking our 2 breaths, allowing ourselves to ground down through the feet again. Beautiful. This time we're gonna step the left leg back. Again, as far back as we're comfortable with. We can come onto the flat of the foot or the toes. We can reach the arms up, or we can bring the hands to the hips, whatever feels comfortable. Taking a few moments, noticing the sensation through the body. Where do we feel maybe that little bit of muscle tightness? Where might we feel release? Beautiful. On our exhale, we can hinge at the hips, bringing our hands down to either side of the foot or onto our chair. If we like, we can bring our hands to the inner portion of the right foot with our blocks. We might scoot that right foot out a little bit, maybe bring the knee out a little bit to make some room for our belly. Beautiful. And we have the option here of rolling onto the side of the right foot. If we like, we can come down to forearms, either on our blocks or on our chair. Taking deep breaths here. Again, noticing what we're feeling. Option to come down to our knee if we would rather. Beautiful. If we've come down to our forearms, maybe coming back up to the hands, maybe rolling the foot back onto the mat. Beautiful. We can frame our front foot if we like, maybe scooting it beneath us a bit more if that's comfortable, or you can leave it where it is. We're gonna ground down through the front foot, sweep the arms forward and up, and then step the back leg in. Beautiful. Releasing the arms down. Beautiful. Go ahead, shake out, and we're gonna come down to the mat for a transition pose before we come into our prop supported asana. So if we don't have our props around us, we'll want to make sure we have those all within arm's reach, as well as anything we might want to drink or anything like that. I'm going to come down onto my mat, onto my belly to start. If we're sitting in a chair, we can place our hands on our lap, and we'll follow the same kind of movements through the upper body. I have my elbows beneath my wrist, my palms forward. I'm going to take a moment, maybe ground down through the pelvis. I might lift to my feet, point my toes, and place the tops of my feet against the mat. Although if you have plantar fasciitis, feel free to keep the toes against the mat, just so that you don't have any sensations that might trigger that pain. And we'll take a few breaths here. We're just gonna use this posture called Sphinx to give ourselves a moment to acclimate to being down on the mat. Allowing ourselves to ground down through the front body. It's a modest heart opener. If it feels a little intense, we can also walk the hands forward, which will take a little bit of the curve out of the back. After we've had a few breaths, we're going to press down through the palms of the hand, maybe extending the forearms and elbows, coming through seal posture. So this is a little bit more intense sensation through the heart space, through the low back. We can look forward, or if we like, we can bring the gaze upward depending on how our neck feels today. We're just going to focus on taking smooth breaths and noticing where we feel the movement in our body, where we feel the sensation. Beautiful. From here, we can bring the elbows back down, maybe bring the hands beneath the shoulders, and press up through tabletop just for a moment, maybe bringing the sit bones back towards the heels, dipping the head down between the arms just for a second. And then we'll come into a seated position so we can set up for our first prop supported asana. So our first prop supported asana today is called Mountain Brook. This is a bit of a heart opener, and I have a few options for y'all depending on our props, depending on how we feel today, or all of the above. So the first thing is, if we have a bolster, as we notice, bolsters can be a little thick sometimes. So we have the option of using this underneath our back to bring our heart open. But if this feels a bit intense, and today for me, I'm gonna say this feels a little intense, I'm gonna use one of my blankets instead. So I'm gonna take one of my blankets, fill it into a square. And I'm gonna place this about a foot below the top of the mat. I'm gonna take my other blanket and I'm gonna roll the edge just slightly. And this is gonna go underneath my neck. And then this flat portion will support the back of my head. So this is gonna go at the top of the mat. And once we lay down, we might need to do a little bit of wiggling, a little readjusting. That's okay. And then our bolster or our two bed pillows will go beneath the knees. So this is our setup. Again, you can interchange the blanket and roll that into a cylinder and put that beneath your knees if you'd rather use something a bit thicker beneath the heart space. So that's completely up to you. So I'm gonna bring my legs over my bolster, and then I'm gonna recline back. We want our blanket to be just beneath the shoulder blades. And by beneath the shoulder blades, I mean that your shoulder blades are resting on the blanket. Our shoulders themselves, the tops of the shoulders, should hopefully be against the mat. Our arms can come out to our sides, or they can have the elbows out to the sides with our hands against our body. And we have our blanket roll beneath the neck, resting our head on the extended blanket. We'll take a few breaths here. If it's comfortable, maybe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Allowing ourselves to kind of revisit our grounding. So noticing the areas against the ground, allowing ourselves to rest against the props, against the mat. Knowing that they're supporting us so the rest of our body can really release. Restorative postures are essentially gravity-assisted stretching. So we don't want to push ourselves into any position. We just want to let gravity help us get a little bit deeper into the posture as we begin to relax. We'll be here for about 3 more minutes. When we're ready, we can slowly begin to come back to the breath. Noticing our inhales and exhales. Maybe wiggling the fingers, toes. When we're ready to exit, maybe gently rolling off our props onto the right or left side. Taking a moment here before gently pressing ourselves upward to a seated position. Take your time. Beautiful. Next, we'll be coming into a supported twist. So I'm going to bring my blanket out of the way here, off to the side. If we do have some tenderness through the side of our hip, we might want to take one of our blankets and lay that down about the middle of the mat, widthwise across the mat. I have two options depending on how we feel. So I am going to start by placing my blocks into an L shape. So I have one on this high position, one on the very lowest position. So again, they're making this kind of L. If we have throw pillows, we can just stack the throw pillows. And then we'll rest our bolster or bed pillows against our blocks to make this ramp. If we like, we can use a blanket to cover ourselves if we're chilly. I am not, so I'm going to use my blanket at the top just as a little extra support under the head. So from here, I'm going to start on my right side. You can start on your left side if that's more comfortable. But I'm going to bring my thigh against the edge of my ramp. Now, if this is a little high and we feel like we want a bit more of a fold, we don't have to use the blocks behind it. We can place the bolster directly on the ground. So whatever we think will feel best for us. I'm going to bring my right hand, or the same hand that I'm going to be resting on the side of, down behind the bolster. I have the option to bring my left leg either out to the side, or I can fold it behind me, whatever feels more comfortable. From here, I'm going to begin to bring my heart space in the direction of the bolster. So for me, that means number one, I pull my belly up onto my leg to make space through my hip joint. And then don't feel like your heart space has to meet the bolster, because that's not accessible for me right now, and not for a lot of us. So we're just going to get as close to it as possible as we come down to our forearm on the back, and then reach the opposite arm forward. We can come completely on our side if we like as well, and just maybe intend the left shoulder forward. Whatever feels good here. We're going to be on this side for about 4 minutes. Or I'm sorry, about 3 minutes, and then we'll flip to the opposite side. So again, not feeling like we're pressing ourselves into any position, but getting comfortable so that we can relax. And as we relax, maybe intending that left shoulder forward a little bit more if it feels comfortable. When we're ready, if we like, we can slowly begin to press hand against the mat or against the bolster, coming upright. And then we're going to switch to the opposite hip. So I like to roll backwards. Some people like to come onto their knees and flip over, whatever works for you. So we're going to do the same thing. We'll bring the thigh near our bolster. We can either extend or fold the opposite leg back. Come down to forearm. Rest against our bolster, bringing the heart space forward as much or as little as is comfortable. 3 minutes here. When we're ready, if we like, we can slowly begin to press upward and come into a seated position as we get ready for our final resting pose. So we have a few different options. We can come through a more traditional Shavasana, lying flat on our back with a bolster or rolled blanket beneath the knees. We can also use a folded blanket as a head pillow. But I also want to offer supported Shavasana for those of us who don't feel incredibly comfortable lying flat against the mat as well. I'm going to take my pillow or my blanket here that I had down underneath my ramp and bring it towards the bottom of the mat. We can keep our ramp here. If we want it to be a little bit shorter, we can take that high block and turn it on its side, or if we're using throw pillows, we can remove one throw pillow. If we like, we can leave our blanket up here for our head, or we can use it to cover ourselves. I'm gonna bring my bum against the base of my ramp. And I'm going to take my blanket and roll it into a long cylinder so I have support beneath my knees. If there is any other posture that you are more comfortable in, please feel free to come into that posture. And then when we're ready, we can recline backwards. We have support beneath the knees, beneath the back, beneath the head. Our arms can come out to the side or against the body, anything that's comfortable for us. If we'd like, we can take a few deep breaths here. Again, maybe in through the nose, out through the mouth, if that's comfortable. Allowing ourselves with each exhale to rest deeper against the props, deeper against the mat. Noticing the sensation through the back body as we connect down, all the way down through the props, through the mat, through the floor, into the earth itself. Coming back to that unconditional support and allowing ourselves to feel supported so that we can rest. If we like, we can begin to notice the sensation of the breath. Maybe noticing our inhales and exhales. The sensation of the breath through the body. We may choose to follow the passage of air in through the body and back out if that's comfortable for us. Today, for our guided meditation, we will have a body scan. When we're ready, if we like, we can bring our awareness down towards the feet. Noticing the sensation through the toes and through the soles of the feet. We're not making any judgments. We're just noticing how we feel. Noticing anything that might come up for us. It might be feelings, memories, thoughts. We'll acknowledge them and then bring our attention back to the area of the body that we're observing. We might begin to notice the inner arch of the foot, the heel. If we like, we can let our awareness drift to the top of the foot and into the ankle. Noticing the back of the ankle and moving upward into the calf or the backs of the legs. Allowing our awareness to wrap around the sides and beginning to notice the shins or the tops of the legs. Continuing into the knee joint. And when we're ready, moving upward. Noticing the tops of the thighs or the quads. And letting our awareness drift around the sides of the legs until we reach the hamstrings or the backs of the thighs. If we like, we may allow the legs to be heavy, feeling them rest against the mat, against the props, against the earth. When we're ready, we'll continue bringing the awareness upward, maybe through the glutes or the bum, and into the hips and pelvis. When we're ready, continuing upward through the belly, maybe noticing how the belly moves with the breath, expanding and contracting. Maybe noticing if we have a tendency to hold the belly in. If so, maybe letting it release, letting it have freedom, being open. Allowing the awareness to wrap around the side body to the low back. Noticing the sensation here. When we're ready, letting the awareness creep upward through the spine, through the mid-back, the upper back, and the shoulder blades. Noticing the left side of the abdomen, the right side of the abdomen. Wrapping around the ribs, maybe noticing the three-dimensional nature of the breath, how the ribs expand forward to the sides and also press down into the mat or the props. Letting the awareness drift into the heart space. And upward into the shoulder girdle. Allowing it to drift down through the arms, through the elbows, the forearms, into the wrists and hands. Noticing if we're clenching our hands, if so, maybe releasing the fingertips, letting the palms be soft. Letting the entire arm be heavy. Letting the shoulders drop away from the ears if that feels comfortable, as we bring our awareness back to the top of the shoulders. Moving upward through the neck and throat, into the base of the skull, traveling upward through the scalp, wrapping around through the sides of the head and into the face. Maybe letting the jaw be loose, noticing the sensation through the lips and cheeks, the nose, the eyebrows, the eyelids, and the forehead, all the way up to the crown of the head. Taking a deep inhale, filling the body with air. And on the exhale, letting go of anything we don't need to carry with us in this moment. We'll be here for the next few minutes, just allowing ourselves to rest in awareness. If we're comfortable where we are, we can feel free to stay here. When I shut down the meeting, it'll shut down for everyone. But if you'd like, you can begin to come back to the space, noticing the breath, the sensation of the body against the mat or props, the sounds in the room. And if we like, we can start to introduce a little bit of movement into the body, Maybe wiggling the fingers and toes, the head and the neck. Taking any movement here that feels good. If we like, we can gently begin to roll onto one side of the body. And if we like, slowly begin to press ourselves up to a seated position. From wherever we are, if we like, we can take 3 breaths together. We can bring the hands to heart center or place them anywhere against the body we like. Taking a moment to thank ourselves for our practice today, for making this space for ourselves. And I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. It really means the world to me.